So tonight's presentation will be recorded, and I'm just going to go over a few tips to help you optimize your experience tonight. If you are on a VPN, the experience on WebEx, which is a platform we are using, is better when you disconnect from a VPN. So if you are on one, you might want to go ahead and disconnect. You may also want to close any unnecessary applications, as the WebEx bandwidth can be quite demanding. On this webinar tonight, we have a chat and we have a Q&A. We invite you to use the chat for any comments, but when you send a message in the chat, there is a little drop-down menu where you can select who you send it to. Please send to everyone. If you accidentally send to the host or the presenter, you may not get an answer. Please send to everyone. For questions, though, we ask that you use the Q&A. You may not see the Q&A. At the bottom of your screen on the right, you should have a little chat box and bubble that you use to open it up. And on the right of that, there are 3 dots. That 3 dots, if you click, you'll see the Q&A. And the Q&A lets us list questions, and you should be able to also like and upvote questions as well. Please reserve questions to the matter at hand as much as possible. We will have a Q&A after we have our panel discussion, and anything that was on your mind that maybe we didn't answer, that would be the best time to ask it. And as we are recording, if you registered for this event, you will get the recording by email within 24 hours. So without further ado, let us hear from each of our panelists. I will ask each of our panelists to introduce them briefly before we move on to questions. So Lloyd, why don't you get us started?
Okay, welcome everybody. My name is Lloyd Bartlett, and in terms of background, I've been in project management ever since I was a very young fellow, long time ago. I got into project management right from graduating from university, and stayed in that ever since that time. I managed projects initially in construction, and into manufacturing, transportation, and at a certain point, I said to myself, I'd like to emulate or simulate some of the people that influenced me as mentors and coaches. And I thought that was all pretty cool, and I had a lot of good luck in that regard earlier on. So I said to myself, I'm going to do the same thing. So I've been the last 17 years teaching on a full-time basis, teaching, coaching, mentoring, and helping people manage projects. So that's my passion. That's why I'm here.
Great, thank you. All right, Chris.
Well, thanks very much, David. Great to have everybody here. My name is Chris Vandersloos. I'm the president of a company called HM Software based in Montreal. I got started in project management just after, about a year after my degree from Mcgill in economics. And that was 1982, so back a few years. I've done a bunch of writing. You may have seen writing from me in the project management realm. I've done writing on project management for Fortune magazine, Project Times, PMI's PM Network magazine. I'm one of the contributing authors on enterprise project management in the AMA Handbook of Project Management. And I blog pretty much consistently on the blog epmguidance.com. I've even taught project management at Mcgill, although that's been a few years. Lloyd and I did some teaching together on advanced project management back in the day. And I've been a member of PMI since 1986. So I've been around the industry for a while.
Great, thank you. Sylvain.
Good evening, everyone. My parents didn't want me to become a DJ, so I had to rethink about my career. So I decided I'd go to project management. So, move from Nortel in the old days, for the ones that are not too old, too young, and say. Then after that, move into China with Formula One World Championship, and then join the Beijing Olympic Games. After that, come back in Montreal, work with Cirque du Soleil for many years, in the show business. Returned back to China with Franco Dragon for producing a lot of their show over there, and then came back here in 2018 after 11 years total in China. So Yes, project management has been my
Wow.
vehicle all along, and in all these fields. And of course, it is a passion. I'm a faculty lecturer at Mcgill. I'm in charge also of the executive production certificate for Mcgill. And yeah, looking forward to chat with you about project management.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Sylvain. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Lloyd. Let's get started. The first question we're going to discuss, we hear the term project management all the time, and people probably use the term at work, in the workplace, with management, with colleagues, and maybe they aren't even speaking about the same thing. So what is project management? What does it mean? And how can we distinguish what different people might mean when they use the term in an organization? Chris, why don't you start us off?
Thanks, David. That's actually a great question. You know, when I got started in project management, we thought of project managers in the construction business. They were godlike. They managed the entire site. What the project managers said, that's the way it would go. But now, over the years, over the last 30-something years, we see project management literally everywhere. And we teach it in regular undergrad degrees. We teach it in high school. We teach it in elementary school. People are expected to know something about project management. What I found is that different perspectives in the clients that we have and the people that I talk to in the industry, perspectives look at project management differently, and they all call it project management, but their perspective can mean something very different. Now, we can have individual project management. I'm going to build that deck behind the house. I have a plan. I'm going to buy some materials. I'm going to get some help. And we're going to have project management like that. But when we go into a business sense, we might have somebody who goes, listen, I have day-to-day work that I have to track at a very tactical, in-person, day-by-day, week-by-week level. And people who heard the term agile will tend to think like that. They go, everything is agile, they'll say. We take work off the wall and we hand it to people, and they do that work and they tell us how quickly they can do it by over the next week, and then we move on to the next thing. That's great, but it's a tactical perspective. It's a day-to-day perspective, and we don't think of analysis of that data. I'm going to give you this. Yes, I promise to do it, and it gets done or not by the end of period of time. But there's still project management in the way I see it. There are still people making schedules, still people who have deadlines, still people who have to make a budget. Someone who says, oh, we're only agile. I go, awesome, where do you get your annual budget? And they look at me saying, well, I don't know what you mean. But yes, it still has to be there, because the perspective of somebody who's operational, somebody who looks over many different tasks from a larger perspective, has to think about a schedule, has to think about resource capacity, has to think about the commitment to deliver things, not just the effort that someone will spend. And one level on that, we talked to, I'm doing project management this week, and what they mean is they're doing the annual budget, maybe in a spreadsheet, or thinking of curves and saying, we have to move ourselves strategically from this direction to that direction. We have to more of those kinds of projects. That's a level. Those off to a business analyst or a project manager. That person will hand them down to people in resources, and that person will pull things off the wall and give them a day by day. So all of those are project management. It's not to say that one is right and the other's wrong. I don't believe that at all. But I think we have to be more precise when someone says, oh, I'm doing project management, and I smile and I nod and I go, great. What is it you mean by that exactly? And when I've done that, sometimes they go, you're the expert, right? Don't you know? And I go, I might. Depends on what you mean by project management. So I think we have to ask ourselves a little bit more, just we're doing project management, and that isn't just a single perspective, a single view into what work being done.
Great, thank you. Over to Lloyd. Anything to add about what is project management? What do we mean?
Yeah, I think Chris has a very good description of what project management's about, and how it can be interpreted and how it's applied very differently, right? So the people that we very often talk to that are doing project management, Some of them are actually coordinating people. Some are working on teams that are being coordinated. Some are, they got a mandate and they got a budget, and they're putting people onto managing projects. So at all of these levels and all of these levels of involvement, we have people involved in projects. We also have broader stakeholder groups that are out there that are just receiving the product at the end or during the iterations, if it's in an agile environment. So we have all kinds of people, and this is the important point, I think, for perhaps everybody, and for David, it's a good question, is everybody in the course of their work, one way or another, is going to be involved or impacted by projects, and therefore they'll be pulled in to work on teams, or they'll be pulled into to groups in order to assess the impact of a potential project. So the world is moving towards project management because the world is moving towards products and services with shorter time spans, and that's not going to change. So more and more there is that kind of work, and more there's involvement at various levels as that work happens.
Great, thank you. Sylvain, anything to add?
Not to repeat what the previous two just said, just want to add is a higher view on project management. It's an investment decision that you have to make. You're making an investment decision to address an opportunity or a problem that you have, maybe with your operation, maybe with your sales, and therefore that investment needs to be managed in a different way than ongoing operation, which are repetitive. Usually it's a set of process. When you decide, I'm going to go after solving this problem, or I'm going to go after this opportunity, then you will have to first of all, define the boundary of that investment in order for you to make sense and have the return that you're looking at. So yes, it's a tough investment to manage. It requires different skill and process and operation, but it is if you do it well, then yeah, your business or your organization will grow. If you don't do it well, then yeah, you could create some serious problem in the future of your financial and all your resource that you're using. There's a price to pay also for not doing this investment properly.
Great. So just to define project management clearly before we go on, would you all agree? Would you say that project management organizations have ideas, they set goals, and the management of projects is the way they go about turning those ideas into reality?
That's certainly a definition. I'm not sure it's the only definition that
Okay.
So for some people there are no ideas. The ideas are given to them to say, you're my contractor. We have the ideas over here. You're going to manage what we give you. But I think it's certainly an acceptable definition to apply to a lot of people.
Okay, great. Lloyd or Sylvain, anything to add on that topic?
Yeah, I think David, you've done a good job defining that, because it describes as well the environment in which projects are created. They start with ideas, and then they move forward, and it's that organizational side that I find that's where the difference is made. If organizations don't prepare for this, organizations and individuals, you'll have organizations that spend a lot of time planning and doing 3-year plans and annual budgeting and so on, but somehow there's a disconnect and they're not able to take those ideas, right, and move them forward into products and services. So that's where project management comes in. It connects those two pieces. It connects ideas to ultimate products and services that are going to serve a purpose, as Sylvain says, as responding to opportunities and fixing problems. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, we've all spent the past year, much of the world has spent the past year working remotely. That's now the norm. How would you say that working remotely has affected teamwork and project results? Lloyd, let's start with you.
Okay, so thanks, David. That's a very good question, right? And I think everybody can relate to that. Over the last 14 months, the world's turned upside down. Everybody's now familiar with Zoom and Microsoft Teams, and that wasn't the case 14 months ago. So it's affected everybody, including those people that get together in order to do project management. Right. So part of the question that you're asking is about the teamwork itself, and also the results. So I'd like to deal with each separately. In terms of the teamwork, for sure, we're spending more time online and using these kinds of these tools in order to interface with each other. So that comes with tremendous benefits in terms of just logistics, in terms of having easier access to the people that we need to interface with through the computer, reduced transportation costs and downtime, if you like, right? And it comes with a cost, as everybody knows, which is having to balance home life and work life, and the stress that comes with that, and so on, right? So there's a bit of a trade-off, and we've all become more familiar with that. So this has affected teamwork for sure, because it's affected the way that we're interfacing with each other. And it's required us to become more familiar and better at using these kind of tools that have come to the forefront. So so in terms of the results, what I found is actually the results have not been impacted so much by these tools. And let me explain. Is the teams that worked well, right, in presential mode, as we now call it, right, pre-COVID, right, are the teams that figured it out, got the tools, made use of them, and are working quite fine right now. And in fact, they're finding sometimes even better results because of the efficiencies they've been able to tap into, right? The teams that didn't somehow work out so well in presential mode, right, are having even a tougher time, right, online and using these tools, right? Simply because if they weren't organized well beforehand, or they would not be working organized well, then all of the other challenges that people are facing in terms of work balance and stress and reduced ability to communicate face to face, they're struggling with those things. So I'm finding that the results are really dependent on things that are not about the tools and technology, right? I say that with some level of confidence because some of the people that I've been dealing with over the last couple of years. In fact, one industry comes to mind as the research industry. In the last 2 years, spanning pre-COVID and COVID, I've talked to 3 groups in research industries about a similar topic, right? Which is their projects are not moving forward as well as they would like, and they need some sounding board and some advice and some tools in some cases to move it forward. Before COVID, that very often translated into, you know something, our teams are not working that well. We're finding that the people that obtain the budgets and have the ideas, somehow it's not translating into work being done. There's people that are supposed to be coordinating, and somehow that's not working. We're not getting the resources that we need. The experts are not somehow the expertise of the experts that are brought on board are somehow it's not coming forward in a way that we need it to. So bottom line, it's not working that well. So guess what? Right in the middle of COVID, another very, very similar group comes forward and says, you know something, our teams are struggling, right? We're using tools, right, like Microsoft Teams and so on, and somehow, and they'll go through the same thing, right? Which is, you know, somehow the people are getting the budgets and the work, and somehow the coordination's not happening. The stakeholders and the communication, that's even more difficult because we don't have this face-to-face. So come and talk to us about that, and how can we address that? So bottom line, what I've concluded is, if the ingredients, the necessary ingredients to help move projects forward are not about technology. Technology, to use engineering terms, is necessary, but not sufficient. You need somehow a Microsoft Teams or a Zoom or whatever in order to interface and get access to the people you're dealing with. However, it's not sufficient in terms of making sure that everybody's on the same page, that people are reliable and engaged, that we'll set out tasks to be done, and then we'll actually do those tasks, and we'll challenge each other, and we'll track each other, and we'll collaborate together. Right, so it's those aspects that will determine how the projects will move forward, and that's true of pre-COVID and in presential mode, just as it is right now in online, using online tools.
All right, Sylvain, over to you.
Well, I think COVID does just kind of throw everybody in the pool and say, okay, yeah, learn how to swim remotely there. And yeah, there's some good there. If COVID would not happen, a lot of people would have still, hold on to the fact that we need to be together to make it work. So at least we broke that barrier. And now we know that it's a lot of the things that was impossible to do are possible. And however, and then we go back to the type of project, things such as infrastructure. I'm working in a movie industry right now, and there's certain things you could do in preparation and planning and things like that. But when it's time to coming on set or building the set and things like that, you can't just do that remotely, where you have to be able to have the designer with the creator being touching it, say, this is what we want, is the costumes doing it. You could look at it, but you have to touch it. So anything related to infrastructure, right, is suffering. Okay, let's put it this way, because they're lacking the connection. Right? If you are in the digital asset world, doing video games, VFX, or other things like software development, things like that, yeah, your life is okay. And a lot of people in the VFX studio now learn how to work from home instead of having 800 people cram into one big studio. Now people could work from a different place. So it opened up a whole bunch of things. But it's a good thing that we get the vaccine and we go back to being able to do it, in any way we want. That's the good news.
Great. Chris, what are your thoughts on this?
Well, I work in the digital asset world. We do software development at HMS Software, and so in many ways, when things shut down now over a year ago, we shifted very quickly to working remotely. Our staff were able to work remotely. We had all the tools already. We had all the processes already in place. It was not as disruptive for us as it might have been in other industries. And yet we had to change management, because a lot of the ways that we would manage, we didn't think much about, but they happened in the background. They happened during a meeting while someone took notes. They happened while you were talking to somebody over how they're moving forward with a piece of work. Design had always happened in person. And as we talk to our clients, some clients shifted very easily, some clients not so much. For some clients, they had already been doing a lot of offshore work. They had already been working remotely. They were very comfortable starting to have everyone work remotely. But even there, our US clients in particular, were seeing we had this disruption of we're all moving to work from home, then the disruption of we're all trying to adapt our tools and processes. As Lloyd said a little bit, it's not enough to have the tools, we also need the processes behind them. And now we're seeing in the US another whole shift to, we're heading back to work. And so now there's a blend of some people back at work, some people being asked to work part-time, some people working full-time. There's a whole blend of, well, now what are we going to do? Do we abandon that stuff that we worked on in the first place? What we've found for ourselves and for a lot of clients is we've stopped doing effort-based management. If you come in the morning and you leave at 5, we'll presume you had a good day. In fact, for companies who have strong project management culture, they've done better because they're already managing things in an activity-based costing kind of manner. What tasks do we have to complete? What are you going to complete? What are we going to get done this week? Where will we be done at the end of next week? Where will we be done at the end of the month? We were already thinking that way. And it's easier to say to someone working at home, well, you just continue like that. You finish these 4 or 5 things, at least in the digital technical kind of world where people can work remotely. So we're going to see more disruption, I think, as this continues. We're going to keep some of those tools. We're going to keep some of those processes. But I bet what we see is a shift to more activity-based management. And we'll have to wait till the post-COVID process to find out how that goes. But we're in for more change for sure.
Yes, and that brings us to the next question. So we know some workplaces are calling staff back. We know some staff do not want to go back, but remote work will definitely continue to be a reality. How would you guys say that we can address the challenges of physical distance to help project teams reach their full potential? And is there a way to further leverage the tools and technologies that we have to our advantage? Let's start off with Lloyd.
Okay, so that's a very good question, David. I think what we're all saying here is that teams, where there's a will, there's a way, and where teams can get together, it's about management by results, right? I think, as to pick up on Chris's point. So as we organize ourselves by results that we need, time-phased results that we need, we'll find that all the same ingredients need to go in to teams getting organized to achieve those results. Right. So in presential mode, what worked there is going to work also in online mode, but even better, because in online mode, if we focus on results, we're no longer talking about what are you doing between 9 and 5 or whatever, but what exactly are the results that you achieve and how do they compare against what you're setting out to do. So the tools can only be beneficial if we use them in the right way. If we take a look at the Microsoft Teams, for example, right? A lot of the good processes for project management in terms of getting people together to are related to artifacts. So for example, we have a project charter to make sure that we're all on the same page with respect to what the project's about, right? We have team charters to make sure our roles and responsibilities are very, very clear. When we're working in presential mode, we know that, right? Sometimes we use RACI charts, for example, to make sure for every given task, we have very, very clear roles and responsibilities associated. So these things we learn as project managers can be very, very helpful in getting us organized. The same thing is true in online, in working online through tools and technologies that are at our disposal through the screen, right? And the good news is we have the ability now to go in and share documents and everybody work on simultaneously the same document. Well, this is marvelous. This is much better than in presential mode, everybody sitting around the table while somebody's trying to draft something up. Right, so we've learned to make good use of those tools, and it's paying off well to those teams that have the will to be on the same page and be engaged to working together. Well, the means are now there to go even further with that, and I think that's going to continue, in the immediate future as these technologies to come out, just to enable teams to do what they need to do, which is to make sure that they're on the same page and they're clear with respect to the results that we're looking at on a week by week or month by month basis. So I think it's good. It's good news for the teams that are well organized.
Mm-hmm. All right, Chris, I'm sure you have some thoughts about this.
I have thoughts about everything, David, as you know. I'm a guy with no shortage of opinions. I'm not sure. I think when we first shut things down and like over those first 90 days, a lot of us went, well, this is the new future. This is the new normal, we called it. And we're going to be working from home forever. I have friends who literally moved from urban areas to more suburban areas going, this is going to be great. I've got an extra room now. I'm going to work from here. I've got Zoom. I've got WebEx. I've got access to Office 365. Everything's going to be awesome. They've now been called back to work, and their new hour and 15-minute commute is not sounding so awesome to them. And so before we kind of go, certain aspects are going to continue, I'm not 100% sure. I think the biggest lessons for myself and my own firm and for others has been the things that didn't work well. And how did we adapt to them? I mean, Lloyd points out very, very well that, there's these great tools, and maybe we didn't use those at all before, and look how effective we can be over managing a document. He's right about that. I mean, for some people, they were already doing some of that, for others, not so much. But there's been a big movement to software as a service and having your documents somewhere shareable and secure. And so that's been great. But I think where, for example, in our office, we had to make a delineation between what I'd like you to chat about in Slack or in Teams, and what I'd like you to send me in an email, particularly in the area of finalizing artifacts. It's like, oh, hey, here's the final document. It will get sent to me in a Slack communication. And I go, no, time out. No, I need that to be an official email from you to me that I have a date on, that I have a final version on. And so we learned that through error. And we will adapt that as, whenever we can start going back to work in our office in Montreal, we'll start, working on that, on some of those processes to say, this is going to be great. Let's keep that. This, not so much. Let's leave that aside and do that as in-person work or as work that we manage separately. So I don't think every process we found worked great. I think for those that did, we're not going to throw them out. We're not going to throw out something that we love and is working, but we're going to drop some of those things for sure.
All right, Sylvain.
Yes, and not to repeat what the others just said, definitely we have improved in certain practice around the project management also. That, for example, I'm talking legal, managing contracts when we have like big project and we have a lot of contracts going on. It was a pain in the butt sometimes to have to, get these big contract. You have to sign it in a certain way. Today, the lawyers had to adapt too, and they got all kind of ways. Now we could just approve online and it simplified the task. We could review, make the change. It forced them to get into, a more level in terms of technology, which is helping us a lot because it could, derail the whole thing. But other things needs to come back, it's definitely any things that require what we call quality assurance, where it's not a decision on it's pass or fail, it's good or bad. It's a decision on I like it or I don't like it, and I'm on the entertainment industry. This will require, contact, and that's big missing. So we're going to get back to this. The tools we have used, in the past, now people are comfortable with it, becomes an habit. People now are talking, we're going to set up a Zoom call and things like that, which is good. Now we're simplifying things we needed to travel, absolutely to have a face-to-face. Well, now we know we could do it, which is going to cut on our travel. That's the downside of it, but that's just going to speed up thing too, right? So, so yeah, we're going to benefit from that, but there's certain thing we have to come back into face-to-face and ASAP, okay, in certain area.
Yep.
We've been delaying, but now if we don't come back, they're going to be in trouble very soon. So we could delay so much online, but then after that, it's face-to-face.
All right, next question. We'll start with you, Sylvain. As we move into the future, how do you see the need for project management work? What will change, and what are the skills that project managers will need in the future? Okay,
so yeah, so there's many disrupting change that are coming, right? And the first one, let's look on tools, okay? Definitely AI is coming. It's coming strong with algorithm. And actually in Montreal, we got 2 companies that are developing project management planning software around the algorithm, where you're going to be discussing your requirements, and the algorithm will generate pretty much the whole planning. So that's the vision. It's probably 4 or 5 years before we could see something that we could use, but it's in the cart there, right? So using all the big data, the knowledge, and to be able to put that into a plan that will be, just fine tune it. So that means you could generate a plan within hours instead of weeks, depending on the size. So this is coming on the tools. On the methodology side, now people are accepting the fact that we're going to have to be able to manage different life cycle within the same organization. No longer try to standardize around one life cycle. And we got the different approach that are coming, which is they're not new. They actually have been around for a long time. Such around the family of Agile, and you have the Scrum, the SD, SDM, etc., that are coming, and they're taking their place in the organization for certain development. So now we have these two sometimes within the same organization, and more we try to see the value of one, which is based on value, the value of the other one, which is based on predictive, and try to see how in the future we could get the benefit of both. Which is the challenge right now, doing the standard, planning. but using value in order for us to generate outcome and not delivering just projects. So it is expected in the future from all the CFO and everybody that we start thinking about delivering results with project and not just project, which is a big frustration in the industry when people are saying we're good at delivering project and the people around is looking and say we don't see the results. That is a frustration that is there, and that's why sometimes project office got a bad rap in terms of yeah, because they were like declaring like success because they delivered so many projects when everybody was looking around and saying, where are the results, right? So we have to move into delivering results. So that means potential big shift in the way that we approach project management, even in the traditional way, which is like by phase or predictive, if you want, that are in discussion right now with PMI. And there's a new standard coming up, which is kind of trying to align themselves to this new reality. So we'll see how that shape up.
All right, and what would you say are the skills that project managers will need in the future?
Well, soft skills, okay? I keep putting emphasis, right? You could have a bad plan and we're going to save this project because of your soft skill, because you're going to be able to turn around, work with your team, find ways of solving that. But if you're bad in terms of, dealing with people, dealing with negotiation, dealing with this, a good plan will not save you. Okay. And so much emphasis is put on the project management, the management part, not enough on the soft side. And this is where we need to put a lot of focus in the future, make sure our people are, understand influence, how does that work versus authority, all of these concepts on the soft side, conflict management, negotiation, leadership, X and Y, all of these style, when do you apply certain pressure, when do you give it back? All of this is the name of the game as far as I'm concerned in the future on your delivery.
Yes, and to back that up, at the School of Continuing Studies, all of the research we see when employers are surveyed, the top skills they're looking for today, it's soft skills. It's communication, leadership, conflict management, negotiation.
Yeah. You can't save, if you're bad at this, the project management plan is not going to save you.
Yeah. All right, Lloyd, what would you say about the future of project management and what skills are needed as we go forward?
Yeah, so not to repeat what's already been said, I see as we go forward, we've gone through cycles of this predictive and agile. I think it's going to be more based on simple results, and we're seeing more and more of a hybrid approach to the tools and techniques because it really is all about results and a reflection up front. What's the best way to get us there? And I think that's going to be true as we're talking at the technical level, as Chris referred to it, the people that are setting up plans and so on, but also at the higher, let's say, executive level, as they define the results and they want to see how things are set up to deliver on those results. So perhaps more involvement at the higher level as well. I think that with respect to the standards, I think there is a movement with the new standard coming out towards principles, and I think that's great because the principles are there to enable getting results, which is really what everybody cares about, getting the results. The executives want that, the team members want that, and as individuals, we want to deliver results. That's why we work, and that's what gives us a buzz in our work lives. So that's going to be the common thread as we're moving forward. So more and more people involved in that discussion before they go ahead and debate the agile and not agile and things like that. More collaboration. If we're talking about tools, more and more use of and development of collaboration tools, right? And finally, on the last part of your question, David, I agree with Sylvain. It's and yourself. It's all about soft skills, and that's why when we created, the Mcgill certificate that you were referring to, initially there was a discussion a number of years ago. What kind of courses are we going to offer? And the approach that was taken is, well, what are the kind of skills that project managers need? And based on the research, as you pointed out, it's all about soft skills. It's all about interpersonal skills. It's all about communication and writing and collaborating. So that's not going to go away. It'll build even further as we bring on tools to help us in that regard. So I think what I've described fits pretty well with Sylvain and yourself.
Yeah.
And I'll bet Chris.
Yep.
We'll have an
Let's hear it,
opinion.
Chris.
But I would. So I've seen them, like I've seen the industry now be around for quite a long time, and when I hear people say, "Oh, well, the new movement is towards whatever it is whatever the flavor of the day is," I always take a bit of a, well, let's wait and see approach. I suspect we'll see a pendulum. We're seeing a pendulum right now away from the big enterprise project management towards agile. We'll see a pendulum swing back sometime in the future. I agree with both of my colleagues. Soft skills are important, but not everybody's ready to work on them. I had someone approach me a couple of years ago saying, "Oh, I like the way that you were speaking in front of the group. How do I do that?" And I said, "Well, it took me years. If you want to, do something, how about joining your local community theater?" And she looked absolutely horrified. She said, "I was hoping you'd just give me a book or something, or, I could do something in a weekend, or could I read an article?" No, you have to do the work. And that stuff doesn't go away. You have to be able to write. You have to be able to communicate. Yeah, these tools are going to be important, but way more important as advanced is, can you negotiate? Do you know when to ask? Do you know when to push, when not to push? These are critical skills. Those aren't going away. I think we're going to see, as Lloyd says, more of a view on results, but I also think we're going to see less of a focus on doctrine. That this is the way. Well, no, there's lots of great things we can pull from many years of expertise. And the last thing I'll say about this is that, we talked at the very beginning about how people, project management's been around everywhere now. Those people who have taken those ubiquitous project management courses, they have arrived to the executive suite. They are now CEOs, they are CFOs, they are COOs, they are operating managers of the largest companies on the planet. I get to talk to these people on a regular basis, and they go, "Oh yeah, I remember that from college when we did Project Management 101. You go, "Yes, you are now my people." And they are bringing an interest in managing by result from the executive level that we've never seen before. And that won't matter to whether you're working remotely, whether you're working in person. It will matter a lot to how you can interact with management and the interest they take in the kinds of results that you can produce. So I think we'll see a lot more of that, and a lot more interest in whatever project management means to people at whatever that level is.
Great, thank you. All right, next question. So we touched a little bit on AI and the impact it'll have on project management. We've talked about different collaborative tools and Teams and Slack. We're hearing a lot about cloud computing. We hear about 5G and the rollout of 5G, and much of the world has instant anywhere access to the internet. Chris, how would you say that these technologies are going to change project management?
Yeah, I mean, in our business, we sell project management software. We sell a timesheet for updating projects called Time Control, and so we've had to create software as a service years ago. It's coming up on our 10-year anniversary, in fact, of our product as software as a service, and I don't know which anniversary of our product is mobile. So mobile apps and software as a service in project management tools is everywhere. If you don't have that, I don't think you can sell the tool. We're going to see the tools are like that all the time. But it is also bringing up a super interesting phenomena that's been around for a while, and that's management's interest in real-time project management, which I think is a fantasy. We've had a desire for real-time project management. Where are we at on the project?
Sorry,
you don't really
Chris,
want to know one person.
Sorry, Chris,
you're losing me?
Yeah, we lost you. You had a robot voice there for about a minute.
Oh, sorry. Am I back?
It was the cloud computing and 5G Skynet taking over.
The 5G, but maybe the cloud computing. Let me just make this. Is my sound okay now?
You sound a little robotic, but it's coming through enough for us to understand. So.
Well, let me just say that just because we are all connected in real time doesn't mean that we now get real-time project management. So I think the same processes that make for good project management have to take advantage of the connection but not have that be the be all and end all of how we're going to manage now. I guess that's my biggest point on that.
Great. All right. Sylvain, what would you say about these technologies, cloud computing, 5G, and maybe even what will happen with AI and machine learning in the future?
5G, I have no idea. Got a phone 5G here. I still try to figure out what's the difference. So, so that's not my thing, right? So,
Right.
AI, like I said, it's, the planning, a lot of the planning we do is based on data or past information that we had, right? So the more you accumulate and the more you're collecting these big data, the more these algorithms will be efficient to at least from a requirement. And you have a little bit of this in the construction industry where you have these estimator, the people that are paid, and they would just enter the parameter of the drawings that they get in terms of the construction, and that poof, it would generate the entire estimation. So we're not far to be able to generate the entire project plan, right? With all the risks considered. Of course, that needs gazillions of data there, but we're not there yet. And I don't think you'll be there until the next 4 or 5 years.
All right. Lloyd, what do you have to say on those technologies?
Yeah, I think it's going to bring us all together even more. What we've discovered in the last year, I think it's going to extend into the future. I think we're going to be collaborating a lot more. We're going to be figuring out how to best interface with each other. We'll be able to have better access to the people that we need to deal with, which means our suppliers halfway around the world, our stakeholders all over the place, and we will figure out through these tools a better and better way to integrate these people together so that we're all literally on the same page. And that'll be a great thing, because that's always been the struggle. It's always about communication, and that's really where the tools comes in. It's going to help us a great deal in communicating. Yeah.
All right, great. All right, so here we are at our last question before we take questions from the audience. Chris, this one is for you to start us off. We know that some workers are concerned about the technologization, I guess we could say, of the work environment, where technology will allow managers and management to, let's say, oversee people's work to the point where workers can feel like they're being surveilled. How do we satisfy desire for increased frequency of information that management needs with the needs of workers to have privacy?
Yeah, I mean, I really understand the concern. I mean, I'm in a timesheet business, so we have people who get a timesheet and say, I don't want to say. So we're familiar with that resistance, but this isn't new news. We've been interested in worker productivity since forever. You go back to say the early 1900s, we had time and motion study people. They would literally stand beside your shoulder with a stopwatch, counting how many seconds it would take for you to move the bolt from here to there, how many times you'd have to turn the wrench. You were managed with how many seconds it would take you to complete a task in an assembly line, and you can be certain that people complained that they were being surveilled, and yes, they were. And you go a little bit further. Well, we want to see just how many hours you spend in the building. So we put up security systems. We scan your card or we scan your biometrics. We get your punch card and we find out, did you punch out when you went to the washroom? Did you punch in when you came back? People felt they were being surveilled. And now, I mean, I kind of laugh when people say, oh gosh, I'm so concerned about, is the vaccine going to be able to surveil me? And I laugh. Did you tap that on a phone, I ask? Because your phone is surveilling you. We know exactly where you were when you typed that question. We know what kind of phone it was. We know, whether you were walking or running or driving. We know lots about you. And it's a lot of big data. So my concern, my conversation for workers is don't stress. This has been around a long time. My conversation for managers is don't get too excited. This has been around for a long time. And you're going to have to be as responsible as you ever were for your worker satisfaction. And are you really going to get from this big data look, this minute by minute update of what someone was doing with their time? Are you going to be able to do something with the data that is productive? If not, move on. And so I think I get the concern, but it's not really a whole lot different than management has had to deal with now for many generations.
All right. Sylvain or Lloyd, do you have anything to add on this topic?
Well, just quickly, so for me in the business we are, productivity comes with the people. The most important assets is the people. So we got to make sure that we create conditions that are, for them, there's a lot of motivation, inner directed. We don't have any hygiene factors such as inequities and perception of, a clique or gang, if you want. That this is deadly on project when you start to have that kind of behavior in terms of the way that people are dealing with themselves. And this is where the project manager needs to be fully aware of all of this, which is probably not something that you learn at school, right? And this is one of the things we need to give you a little bit of heads up that you need to make sure that the team stay productive, stay focused, and understand why we're doing that, and they understand where we're going. And the more and more the younger generation, they want to answer. They don't want it being told this is what we're going to do. If you're not telling them what you're going to do, they're just going to, we're not going to do it. So you have to learn also to work with all generation, and it's a challenge to keep a team motivated. Even though we work big production in entertainment, people have many opportunities somewhere else, and if you don't create these nice conditions, you're going to lose them.
Yeah. All right, Lloyd, anything on this topic?
Yeah, just very briefly, I would agree with all that's just said on that. I think the next immediate couple of years, there's a lot of nervousness out there in terms of privacy and and with respect to people working at home, right, and keeping that wall between their private life and their work life. So there's nervousness there with AI technology and so on. It's even greater, and so that's going to need to be worked out. It's going to need to be worked out from a technology point of view, but also from a trust point of view, from a team point of view. We've seen over the last year, we'll get to, we'll have a Zoom session and people just don't want to show a piece of their house or whatever. So you end up talking to, let's say, particularly in training, because students have the right to do that. So if you're talking to a bunch of black boxes, then it's a little less effective. So people, I think this will be the next immediate challenge to address. Yeah.
Great, thank you. All right, we're going to start taking questions from the audience. The first one is for you, Sylvain. In the show business industry, example, Cirque du Soleil, what company functions can be run remotely, in your view?
I think you could run any functions remotely. It depends of where you are in the life cycle. If you are in the early phase in the life cycle, and we just went through it, like for example, you are in a concept phase, in the planning phase, you could do it remotely, and even pretty much all your team, all your production team. Execution, this is where it hurts. Okay, this is where things are breaking down, right? We need to have the face-to-face. We need to see and touch whatever is we're creating. And so you cannot, at this stage, okay, the experience, before we would not do anything remote. Now we know we could do a lot of things remote, but execution, we try to create environments that are virtual, which is our representative of the real environment that we're going to be in. But at the end of the day, a costume, you need to touch it, right? A set, you need to see it. A lighting, cannot be done via remote. Gotta see the face. Is it lighted properly? So all of this, execution is not possible. So yes, there will be functions, for example, in pretty much in any industry in the entertainment that will be using quite a bit of remote. And now we don't need to have people coming in on visa to do the planning. They could stay in Italy, they could stay there, which is big advantage, because sometimes just getting them to come here in Montreal, it was a problem. So now we could work with a whole bunch of people. We're comfortable to work. We could do a lot of planning before, but execution, still haven't figured out how we're going to do that.
Great, thank you. All right, next question. What background or what requirements are needed before someone starts taking project management courses?
Oh, I think I'd throw that at Lloyd.
All right, Lloyd, you've been elected.
All right, it's a good question. It comes up very often. The bottom line, when you take a look at where project managers come from and where good project managers come from, right? They come from all kinds of backgrounds. So there is no project management development path or whatever, or pre-prep. Bottom line is, it's the accidental profession. I think it's going to stay that way, and because it's a mix of tricks and a toolkit that people need in order to manage projects. So people come into courses. Courses have a role to play to prepare people for managing projects. But what is this? What is the profile of an individual coming to those courses? You wouldn't want to restrain that. And the bottom line is, there's all kinds of people with all kinds of strengths that they're bringing to the table, and what the courses are going to be able to do is just to leverage those strengths as they're dealing with others, because we're simulating a project environment. They're working in teams and they're practicing, making trade-offs and collaborating together, and that's just as another leg of their preparation. So to have a list of things before somebody starts courses in project management, I don't think it's in anybody's interest to have that. We need just a sincere desire for anybody to invest some time to hone their skills further, and beyond that, let it be, because they come from all over the place. Yeah.
Thank you. All right, next question from Tahere. I am completing my project management course at BCIT. As a newcomer to Canada with previous experience of project management, 8 years, is it true that in Canada I would start as a project coordinator?
Well, it must be true, but not necessarily. Just like anyone who has skills that they've acquired somewhere else, you can certainly go for project management jobs. You may find that larger project management shops or more established project management shops, like in engineering, for example, might be less comfortable having somebody whose project management experience doesn't match people here. But I wouldn't say that you are stuck in a particular role like project coordinator. If there's a project coordinator role and you want to take that on, then go ahead. But I think you will find positions as a project manager for different kinds of companies.
Excellent, thank you. All right, back to the talk of remote work. How do you see the balance between externalizing resources and keeping unity in project management? There's limits to working online, but it can also be a solution. How do we set an efficient balance?
Yeah, I'm struggling with this right now. I mean, okay. I have some of my staff who say, well, we need new people, and maybe we should be looking for people who are remote. And my reply was, careful what you wish for. Because if I really shift all of my development resources to remote, they won't be in Montreal. They'll be somewhere else much cheaper. And one of the strengths of our company has been that personal interaction and the way the team works together. So from staff who go, well, when you say we are going to have to come back someday soon, come back. So we're struggling a little bit with some of this is effective and we would like to keep it. Some of it is not so much and we want to end it. And we're struggling with that balance right now. I think every organization is going to have to come to terms with how much of this do you want to keep remote and how much do you want to bring back into the office.
All right, Lloyd, do you have any comments on this?
Nothing to add. I think Chris did a good job as usual with that one.
Great, thank you. All right, on the topic of soft skills, what is the best way to develop soft skills?
Oh man, it's such a wide topic. We could have spent the whole hour on this. I mean, the short answer is it depends on the soft skills, but there are resources for all of the important soft skills. You can do a course on negotiating. You can go to Toastmasters and improve your public speaking. You can find, if you're in a large organization, you can say, I could really use a mentor. I mean, there's a lot of places where you will be able to find the resources, but I think the best thing to do is make a little inventory of what soft skills am I good at and where am I lacking, and make a plan for each one of them.
Yeah. Also, because of this need for soft skills in the marketplace and the importance of it, Mcgill has created a professional development certificate in collaboration and productivity, which focuses specifically on developing those skills. And that brings me to another question that we had. Lloyd, we had some questions about Mcgill's professional development certificate in project management. Could you talk a little bit about it? And we also had a question as to whether that would train someone in the hybrid model we were talking about.
Okay, so the answer is, starting with the end, the answer is yes, right? It trains in that model because if we go back to it, a comment that I made earlier, when that program was developed, it was based on what are the skills that project managers need in the workplace now and in the future, right? So based on what we were talking about earlier, a lot of it is about soft skills, right? And to some degree as well, it's about new approaches and so on. So as approaches in agile and so on came to the forefront, then there's a proportional expansion of that subject matter. So bottom line, the common thread is that within that program, it's all about the skills that project managers require based on what industry is telling us. Right. So what the industry is telling us is that we want people that work effectively in teams. We want people that can communicate well and that can collaborate well, and all that entails. We also want people that, from a project management point of view, will be able to effectively take a look at results and what it'll take to get there, including the approaches and methodologies, right? So we do cover off. There's within the program itself, there's some required courses and there's some elective courses. So that comes back to something that Chris just referred to. What's the gap for an individual, right? If I want to move forward to manage projects in a particular environment or a particular industry, where's the gap that I see? And through the elective courses, you can fill those gaps. So somebody that's working in software, I would anticipate they'd want to probably hone their skills in agile because it is prevalent out there. So there is some flexibilities within the program for somebody to fill that gap of what it needs in order for them to have those skills to succeed in that environment. Yeah.
Great. Yes. So Mcgill has the professional development certificate in project management, which is an evening part-time program, and it was really designed for working professionals who are busy in the day but want to take their careers to the next step. Everyone here will get an email tomorrow with the details of that program, as well as 2 other project management courses that Mcgill has that are online, self-paced. There is Agile Project Management Practice and Certification, and there is Project Management Principles to Practice. Additionally, we had a question, someone asking how exactly they should go about assessing their own soft skills. And so that would be the perfect time for me to mention that this event tonight was brought to you in part by CATS at the Mcgill School of Continuing Studies, which is Career Advising and Transition Services. The Mcgill School of Continuing Studies has its own career advising and transition team that helps students and potential students with those kind of questions. So I'm gonna paste in the chat all of the information about CATS if you'd like to check out CATS. They've given me their social media details. They've given me their schedule. There are workshops and webinars. There's advising. So some of those resources may be of help. And also, CATS offers a summit called Power Skills twice a year. The next one is going to be in August. It's a free summit made up of multiple events where soft skills, which is why it's called Power Skills, soft skills are the main thing on the menu. And we will take one last question before we close things out tonight. The last question, I really like this question. What sectors do you see project management becoming more prevalent in or more important in the future? We'd like to take that one.
Oh, I'll go.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, it was the first thing I think I said when we started, and that's that project management's become you.
Oh, we lost you there, Chris.
Oh,
I think you were going to say
I better
ubiquitous,
hand it off to one of the other guys
and then you cut out.
Well,
Am I
let me
back?
talk about my field then.
Yeah.
In my field, it definitely VFX and video games are two sectors that are growing fast. There are two sectors that are growing the fastest. I was with a company in the VFX today, and they were talking. They were need to pass from 500 to 1,000 in their studio, and it's like this. There's more studio coming up, and our video games is just booming everywhere. So definitely, and this one is really done with Agile, with Scrum. This is a sector where you need to be strong on this one. And definitely, we're going to continue to export quite a bit our capability of doing shows, and it started with Cirque and, Eloise and all of these ones. So we're going to keep exporting. So a lot of project manager to work internationally will be required, to be able to go in other countries and do some agreements and partnership in the movie also. So there's growth in these area for project manager.
All right. Lloyd, what do you have to say?
Yeah, I would say in terms of the need, it's going to be a continual tendency of what we've witnessed over the last number of years. Chris mentioned earlier on, going back, let's say 30 years, project management. If you organized a course for project managers, you probably have quite a significant number coming from construction or coming from the railway or coming from these traditional organizations. If you take a look right now, and if we organize the course and we ask people where they're coming from, which is what we do, you'll get such a broad range, and that's not going to change. The reason for that is about the results. People are understanding that project management is about how can we organize ourselves to move forward and get results. So take a look at PMI's website. The communities of practice represent virtually every industry under the sun, right? Because everybody shares that desire. How can we organize to get results, right? So having said that, it's within these industries and within these courses, we have to explore the very different ways of getting the results. And that's where the fun is, because they're not the same, whether, in software versus, I'm sure in entertainment versus the hard industries. So that's where the fun is. Yeah. It'll be
all right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Thank you, Lloyd. Thank you, Chris. Thank you, Sylvain. It's been great to hear your perspectives. Really appreciate it. I want to thank everyone for attending. Thank you for your questions, and have a wonderful night.
Okay.
Thanks, David.
Thank you, everybody.
Everyone.
Thanks for your questions, everybody.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Take care.